for what? I don't know why, but I'm like obsessed with that song. Okay, maybe not obsessed. That would be a little extreme. So hey guys, today I'm going to be filming a video and I'm going to be doing another video about books. I got a great response on my last book video, so I definitely want to keep doing these because I've been really trying to read a lot the last like 2 weeks. I haven't been reading that much because I've been watching the Kardashians. Yeah, okay, let's just not talk about it. I feel a lot of shame, okay? No, I don't. I don't actually at all. I'm just going to tell you guys about the books that I've already read, and then I'm going to tell you about the books that I have picked up and the one that I'm currently reading. So let's just get into it. The Wells Bequest. So the Wells Bequest was by this person. I'll put the title right here. I believe it was Polly Shulman. It was basically a companion book of the Grimm Legacy book, which is like a really good book. And as I said in my other video, I love stuff about like the Brothers Grimm and like fairy tale stuff, especially like more twisted versions of that. I freaking love Once Upon a Time, but I haven't watched it in a long time, which is really strange. That was a lot more like magic and stuff like that. This was a little bit more like sciencey, I guess you could say. Basically, it was about this boy, and his name was, I forget what his name was. What was the name? Yeah, I forget what his name was. But it was about a boy, and I tend to like books with guys as the main character for some reason. I don't know why, but I like them a lot better. And he finds a library, and it has a lot of weird things happening in this library, a lot of unexplainable things, and he's a really like huge like sciencey kind of nerd, I guess. And when things can be explained basically, and there's a reason for things, and like stuff like magic and stuff or miracles or stuff like that doesn't really make sense to him and doesn't really like appeal to him, I guess. How he gets there is he sees himself on a tiny time machine with a girl. Everything kind of just goes from there, and a lot of different things happen. It's a really good book. It's a really short read, but it's pretty fun, and I think a lot of people of a lot of different ages would probably like it because, I don't know, it's a really fun book. It has some fantasy and stuff and a lot of like sciencey stuff. It was a pretty easy read though, but it really like kept my attention because a lot of things happened in it that I didn't expect to happen and stuff. Then the next book I read was the book Linked, which was by far like my favorite book probably out of like all the books that I read. Linked was basically about a girl who was having visions for quite a while. Basically, she comes to realize that it's actually another girl who she's having visions of her life. And I don't want to like spoil it or anything, so I basically can't tell you anything about it. Okay, I'm just gonna give you a little spoiler. The visions basically turn out to be another girl, right? And the girl turns out to be her sister. So it's kind of like a in the future type of thing. It's not dystopian. Well, it maybe like has a hint of dystopian, but I don't think it would be labeled as like a dystopian novel. But they basically live like on space. They live on like different planets and stuff, and on their planet, to like control population and stuff, they're only allowed to have 2 kids. They have a link, and that's how they've been seeing visions, and that's pretty much all that I can tell you. But it is such a good book. I don't think I've ever read anything like it. Like, again, it was kind of like sciencey a little bit and messed up a little bit. Highly suggest that anybody reads it. It is so good. It's so good. I can't even. And it's a series, so I am definitely going to be reading the next books because it was just so good and I can't wait to read about more. The next thing that I read was Pivot Point. In the future a little bit too, but basically the normal world was separated from another kind of world, I guess, where people kind of have powers, I guess, like telekinesis, stuff like that. Basically just kind of like powers, I guess. And it's basically about a girl whose name is Addison. Of course I would remember that one. They call it divergence, which I thought was kind of funny. She can basically, if she has a question like, should I do this or should I do this, she can go down each path and see what'll happen. And it'll only take like 5 minutes in real time, but she can like go through it and like have like 5 months. Something in the book happens that triggers her to try to make a decision, and basically from there on out, the entire book is her in a, I forget what they called it. I think it was like a site or something like that. It was really kind of trippy, I guess, because it was real, but then like it wasn't, because like, you know, obviously that you're reading it and she consciously goes into this. So there are two paths that she could have gone on. So she did both of them at the same time, and throughout the book you can see them both at the same time. So each chapter has a, kind of like in the dictionary where it like breaks up words and how to pronounce it and stuff, and then has a definition, you know what I'm saying? So it'd have that. So it'd have something like normalcy or something like that. I don't know. So normal would be, I can't say it without saying it. Basically, one of them would take her out of the kind of paranormal life she was living, where she's around people who have powers and stuff, and put her in a world where there are normal people, and that would be one chapter where it would have like something relating to normal as the title. And then the other part would be her staying with everybody who has the powers and stuff, and that would have something with paranormal in the title. I really liked that. I really like small details like that. I don't know why, but it really helps me keep track of where things were in the book, because if that hadn't been there when it started out, I didn't like really put it together. It was a lot easier to keep track of everything, because she basically was living two lives throughout the entire book. That was something that really kind of kept you on your toes and was really interesting. Really liked the book, and a lot of things happened in it that I wasn't expecting at all. The next book that I read was Tarnish, which was a book that was about Anne Boleyn. I said before that I am really interested in like the Boleyn sisters and like the Tudors and stuff like that. I had read The Other Boleyn Girl, which is from the perspective of Mary Boleyn, who was actually the oldest Boleyn in the family. In The Other Boleyn Girl, there was a lot of like misinformation, I guess you could say. A lot of things weren't historically accurate, and she's just, the author just kind of took creative license, and a lot of things were different from how they actually were. It's nice to be able to get different perspectives, and I definitely want to read more books about them just to kind of get different perspectives and kind of put my own, you know, interpretation of how things really were, you know? And then I kind of did some more research after I read that book. Anne Boleyn wasn't as like evil and heinous as she made her out to be. Or Philippa Gregory, I think that's who wrote The Other Boleyn Girl. Basically, it was about her and her life and stuff, and her kind of making her way into becoming the Queen of England. And what I think is really interesting about this story is that it really shows how much control men had over women then, especially like young girls, because she was so young. These old men were marrying these 13-year-olds, and I knew that before, but it's just interesting to read it in a book. That's kind of what Anne Boleyn was doing the whole time, was just kind of like get control over her own life. And I think that's why people didn't like her, and that's why they put kind of a negative spin on the things that she did, and they were calling her a witch and stuff, and saying that she used witchcraft on Henry and stuff. And I think honestly he probably liked her because she was different from all the other girls, and she wasn't just going to lay on her back and not say anything to anybody. She was gonna put in her own 2 cents and give her own opinions and stuff like that. It was a really good book. It really kind of empowered me a little bit. It really only went up to the point where she started the relationship with Henry. I would have liked for it to like go a little bit farther, so then I could kind of see how it played out in her eyes, rather than like Mary Boleyn or whatever. But I don't know, it was really interesting. And then the last book that I read was actually the one that I have right here, and this is The King's Rose. This was, again, kind of along the same lines of Henry and Catherine Howard, but the Howards and the Boleyns are kind of, their family is like mixed together, I guess. Anne Boleyn was basically her cousin. What she is basically there for is to get the attention of the king. When the book starts, you kind of get her right where she is, you know, going into his house, and she's already gotten his attention, and she's getting married to him and stuff. Honestly, didn't like her. She was really stupid. She did a lot of really stupid things, and I think that was a lot of it was because of her age, and you know, she kind of would try to make decisions by herself, and they wouldn't be like the best decisions and stuff. She was like 15 when she married the King of England, and he was like 50 or something like that. Like, he was not in his prime, okay? The end was devastating to me. All of this was because the men were just trying to control them. If they don't do things perfectly or things don't work out, it gets blamed on them and they just kind of throw them into the fire and they're just like, oh, that's it. I can't help you anymore. It was a really interesting book and I really enjoyed it actually, except for the end. But yeah, I'm really into like historical fiction right now. I'm not sure what's going on with that. I'm just gonna quickly go over the books that I got the last time I was at the library and then I will be finished. So the first one, actually the first two that I have are in a series and I've actually read these before, but I stopped like at the next to last book, but I have read these before, but I just want to reread it so then I can reread the entire series, you know what I mean? So this is the Strange Angels series and this is about a girl named Drew. There's this divide where there's like the real world, and then there's like the normal world. So the real world is like where zombies exist and like vampires, which they call suckers, and werewolves and stuff like that, which is kind of weird for me because this is like, a lot of this is about vampires and I don't like books about vampires, but this is one that I really like. I just got the first one and I got the second one. I was gonna get all of them, but Chris told me that I shouldn't. I am in the middle of reading this one. The next book that I got, I actually started this one, but I stopped because I don't know what it is, but it just wasn't holding my attention. The way that it's written just was kind of not really rubbing me the right way. I don't know why, but this one is called Blink and Caution. It's basically about a guy named Blink and a girl named Caution. The guy is, I think he's homeless, and he basically stumbles upon a phone of a guy who, or a man who is like, I don't know what he's doing. I didn't get that far into it, but I think he's like some kind of criminal or something. And then a girl, basically she was dating a drug dealer, I think, and she is escaping from him. So I don't really know what else happens in it because I haven't gotten that far. That's gonna be something that I'm gonna have to like force myself to sit down and read. And then I got a book called Dust Girl, and I guess this isn't a series. It says book 1. I guess it's like something about dust storms or something. Her mother disappears and she's trying to find her or something like that. I don't know, it looked interesting to me, so I just got it. And then the last book that I got was by Maggie Stiefvater. And I really like her series, the Shiver series, I think that's what it's called. But that one's about werewolves, which made me fall in love with werewolves even more, but that series is so good. But this is by her, and this is the Raven Cycle series. And this is book 1, and this is called The Raven Boys. A girl named Blue, and she has a clairvoyant mother, and anyway, I was just getting distracted. But anyway, I am going to be reading this book as well, and I'm pretty excited to read that. So that is pretty much it. As usual, let me know any books that you guys would recommend to me down below. Any books like historical fiction. I love historical fiction. Anything like Anne Boleyn and stuff like that. A lot of the books by Philippa Gregory, I was supposed to read those, but then I didn't because I got like all of them and then I didn't finish them. But I'm definitely planning on reading them sometime. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. I love you. Bye.